The masked man's grip tightened around Zuri Masego's throat, cutting off her scream before it could form. She'd been reaching for her phone when her apartment door burst open, 3 seconds that turned her Tuesday night into a nightmare. "Quiet!" he hissed in accented English. "You make noise, you die faster." Her vision blurred at the edges. She clawed at his arm, felt her lungs burning, and then the world exploded. The door splintered completely off its hinges. 4 men in black suits moved through the opening like choreographed violence, gunshots. Her attacker's grip went slack. She collapsed to her knees, gasping, as his body hit the floor beside her. Through watering eyes, she saw him. Tall, sharp-featured, moving with lethal precision. Korean. Those eyes. God, she knew those eyes. He stepped over the body separating them, gun still drawn but lowered. Zuri Masego, 26, sound engineer, 3 weeks pregnant with my child. His voice was calm, controlled. Which means you're under my protection now. Her hand moved instinctively to her stomach. Still flat, still unchanged. I'm not pregnant. You're insane. Yes, you are, and you know who I am. He crouched to her level, and recognition slammed into her chest. The photographer from Busan. The man who'd introduced himself as Han. Lee Ryon, that's my real name. And I've had people monitoring you since the morning you missed your period. You've been stalking me? Protecting you. That man who just tried to kill you works for the Dongdaemun crew. They found out about the pregnancy 4 hours ago. I got here 30 seconds before they did. He extended his hand. Right now, 3 more teams are heading here. Trust me for 60 seconds. After that, you can hate me all you want. She took his hand. The escape was chaos. Bodies in the hallway. Neighbors hiding behind closed doors. A black SUV waiting with engine running. She was inside and moving before her mind could catch up with her body. Explain, she demanded. Right now. All of it. He showed her his phone. Messages in Korean, some with her photo attached. Numbers that made her stomach turn. 5 different organizations discussing you. Most want you dead to hurt me. 2 want you alive for leverage. Why would anyone care about me? Because you're carrying my child. My enemies have been waiting years for me to show weakness. A pregnant woman? That's the vulnerability they've dreamed of. The city blurred past tinted windows, her life evaporating like it had never existed. My family. We'll be contacted with a cover story. Job opportunity in Seoul. Your mother won't question it. You don't know my mother. I know she's a retired teacher in Johannesburg who video calls you every Sunday at 9 p.m. A contract in Seoul will make her happy, not suspicious. She should have been angrier about the invasion of privacy. Instead, she just felt exhausted. That night in Busan, was any of it real? His expression shifted. Everything except my name. Everything else was the truth. The memory hit her then, vivid despite the weeks that had passed. 2 months earlier, Busan. The multicultural music festival sprawled across Gwangali Beach, stages everywhere, crowds moving like a living thing between performances. Zuri had been there for work, hired to handle sound for 3 indie bands, but the energy was infectious. After her last set wrapped at midnight, she'd wandered toward the electronic music stage, letting the bass vibrate through her chest. That's where she'd seen him. Standing apart from the crowd, watching the performance with an intensity that suggested he was analyzing rather than enjoying. Korean, early 30s, wearing casual clothes that somehow looked expensive. When their eyes met, he'd smiled. Not the predatory smile she'd gotten used to deflecting in clubs, but something genuine, surprised. She'd smiled back. He'd moved through the crowd toward her, navigating the chaos with practiced ease. Up close, he was beautiful in a dangerous way. Sharp features, intelligent eyes, a presence that made space around him without effort. "You're not dancing," he'd said in accented English. "I spent 6 hours making sure other people's music sounded good. Now I'm just listening. A perfectionist. A sound engineer. There's a difference." She'd gestured to the stage. "You're not dancing either. I spent 6 hours avoiding people who wanted things from me. Now, I'm just existing." Something about the way he'd said it made her laugh. "Rough day? Rough year? Rough life, honestly." He'd extended his hand. "Han." Zuri. They'd talked for an hour, moving away from the loudest stages to the quieter beach area where conversation was possible. He'd asked about her work, her life in Seoul, what brought an Afro-Korean woman from South Africa to Korea. She'd asked about his photography, the lie he'd told so smoothly she'd never questioned it. "I take pictures of things people don't want seen," he'd said, which she'd interpreted as edgy art photography rather than surveillance for a crime syndicate. "Sounds lonely." It is. But sometimes you meet someone who makes you remember what connection feels like. The line should have been cheesy. Instead, it felt honest. Raw. Like he was surprised to be saying it out loud. They'd walked along the beach, shoes in hand, waves washing over their feet. He'd told her about losing his family young. The truth, she'd realized later. She'd told him about moving to Korea to reconnect with her father's heritage, only to find Seoul both welcoming and alienating in equal measure. "You don't belong anywhere completely," he'd observed. "Neither do you." "No, I suppose I don't." The kiss had happened naturally. One moment they were talking, the next his hand was in her braids, and her fingers were gripping his shirt, and the world narrowed to just the two of them. He'd tasted like soju and possibility. "I don't usually do this," she'd whispered against his mouth. "Neither do I." His forehead pressed to hers. "But I don't want this night to end." They'd found a hotel. Nothing fancy, just clean and private. And for those hours he'd been exactly who he'd claimed. Just Han. Just a man who looked at her like she was the only real thing in his carefully constructed world. In the morning, he was gone. A note on hotel stationery. "Thank you for reminding me what normal feels like. H." She'd told herself it was just a festival hookup, a beautiful memory. Nothing more. Until 3 weeks later when her period didn't come. The memory faded as the SUV descended into an underground garage. Ryan was watching her, and she wondered if he knew what she'd been thinking about. "That night meant something," he said quietly. "I need you to know that. It meant enough to get me pregnant and hunted." "Yes. And I'm sorry for that. But I'm not sorry I met you." The penthouse unfolded like a fever dream. Floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist luxury, security cameras everywhere. He showed her to a bedroom 3 times the size of her apartment. "This is temporary," she said. "This is safe." He moved to the window. "I won't lie. My world is violent. You'll see things that will make you hate me, but I will keep you alive. Both of you. Why not just pay me off? Make this disappear?" He turned to face her. "I was 7 when someone put a bomb under my father's car. He survived. My mother and younger sister didn't. I grew up knowing family makes you vulnerable. That love is a weapon." He crossed the room. "But then I met you. One night where I wasn't Lee Ryan, where I was just someone worth knowing, and I felt like maybe those walls were unnecessary." He crouched down, met her eyes. "I don't care if you hate me. I don't care if you never forgive me, but that's my baby inside you. And I will burn this city down before I let anyone hurt either of you." Something in her chest loosened. "I need time to process." "Take all the time you need. Just take it here." He stood. "There's food in the kitchen. If you need me, press the intercom marked office." At the door, he paused. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. You deserved better than lies and a life in hiding." Then he was gone, and she was alone in a gilded cage. The next morning, Zuri took the pregnancy test she'd bought days ago but hadn't had the courage to use. 2 lines, clear as judgment. She stared at it until a soft knock interrupted. "Zuri? It's Emo. May I come in?" The woman who entered was 60-something, kind-eyed, wearing an apron dusted with flour. Emo took one look at her face, at the test on the counter, and pulled her into a hug. "I know this is scary, but you're safe now. You don't even know me. Ryan brought you here. That's enough." Emo pulled back, cupped her face. "That boy has survived assassination attempts, gang wars, impossible situations, but one pregnant woman makes him terrified. I've worked for him 8 years. Never seen him like this." "Like what?" "Human." Emo smiled. "Now come. I made breakfast. Baby needs nutrition, and you call me Emo, means aunt. You're family now." The kitchen smelled like home. Kimchi jjigae, rice, banchan spread across the counter. As Zuri ate, Emo chatted about what she'd need. Clothes, books, equipment for her audio work. "Rian said you do sound engineering. We'll set up studio. Keep you busy. Busy is good for worry." Over the next week, Zuri discovered Emo was right. Rian converted an office into a studio space with equipment better than anything she'd owned. He arranged for her projects to be handled through untraceable channels. He checked on her every evening, asking about her day like it genuinely mattered. But his world kept bleeding through. Guards rotating shifts, coded conversations. The underlying tension that never disappeared. 8 days in, she met Gyeowul. The woman appeared at breakfast. Early 30s, scar down her left cheek, eyes like cut glass. She assessed Zuri with open suspicion, then turned to Rion and spoke in Korean. Zuri had been learning basics from Emo. She caught enough. Liability, risk, mistake. "Gyeowul." Rion's voice carried warning. "I'm always on your side. That's why I'm telling you this is dangerous. You're putting the entire organization at risk for my child. Say it." The room went silent. Gyeowul's expression shifted before landing on resignation. "You're really doing this?" "She stays. The baby stays. Anyone who has a problem with that can leave." Gyeowul studied them both. "Then I'm doubling security. And she needs self-defense training. If something happens and we can't reach her in time, she should know how to buy herself seconds." That's how Zuri spent the next 2 weeks learning Krav Maga from a terrifying woman who showed no mercy despite the pregnancy. "You're small," Gyeowul said, circling her. "But you're fast. Use that. Eyes, throat, groin. Don't fight fair. Fair gets you killed." Between training sessions, Zuri learned Korean phrases from Emo, worked on audio projects, and slowly earned nods of respect from the rotating guards. The penthouse became less prison, more refuge. And Rion. She saw more of Rion than she'd intended. He worked from home more often, spent evenings in the living room while she read or worked. A comfortable silence developed between them. Sometimes they'd watch movies, debate the merits of action films versus documentaries. Sometimes they'd just exist in the same space, and that felt like enough. 3 weeks in, he took her to a doctor's appointment. "You found me a doctor? The best obstetrician in Seoul. Private clinic. Discreet. No questions asked." He held out her jacket. "We leave in 5. The clinic was tucked inside what looked like a luxury spa, all marble and soft lighting. Dr. Kim was professional and gentle, confirming Zuri was 9 weeks along, everything developing normally, due date in late June. She prescribed vitamins, answered questions, gave Rion a look that suggested she knew exactly who he was and chose not to care. In the car afterward, Rion stared at the ultrasound photo, a grainy blob that barely looked human. "That's really our baby," Zuri said softly. "Yeah." His voice was rough. really is. Something shifted between them. Some acknowledgement that this was real, permanent, binding them together regardless of what either wanted. "Thank you," she said, "for making sure I had proper care." He looked at her, and for a moment she saw Han again, the man from the festival who'd laughed and kissed her like she mattered. "I meant what I said. I'll protect both of you, whatever it takes." They were 2 blocks from the penthouse when the car ahead exploded. Their driver reacted instantly, swerving hard left as debris rained down. Zuri's seatbelt locked, Ryon's arm shot across her chest, additional protection, as their SUV mounted the curb and crashed through a storefront window. Glass everywhere, smoke, the acrid smell of burning metal. Her ears rang. Ryan was moving before the vehicle stopped, pulling her from the wreckage, shielding her body as gunfire erupted from somewhere behind them. "Stay down." He had his gun out, returning fire as his guards formed a protective barrier. "Gyo-ul, status." 3 shooters, rooftop position. A woman's voice, sharp and commanding. "I'm on it." More gunfire. Zuri pressed herself against a wall, hands over her stomach, trying to make herself smaller. This was real. People were actually trying to kill her, kill the baby. It lasted 90 seconds. Then silence. Ryan was beside her immediately, hands checking for injuries. "Are you hurt? Any pain?" "I'm okay, I think I'm okay. We need to move, now." He pulled her up, and they were running through the destroyed storefront into an alley toward a backup vehicle. Gyo-ul in the passenger seat, blood on her jacket but expression fierce. "All 3 shooters eliminated," she reported. "Dongdaemun colors. They were waiting for us." Someone knew about the appointment. Ryan's voice was ice. Someone inside gave them the route. "I'll find them." But they didn't return to the penthouse. Instead, Ryan directed them north, out of the city, into mountain roads that twisted through dense forest. 2 hours of driving in tense silence before they arrived at a traditional hanok nestled in a valley, surrounded by nothing but trees and mist. "Where are we?" Zuri asked as they pulled up to the compound. "Somewhere no one knows about. I bought this property under 6 layers of shell companies 5 years ago. Only 3 people in the world know it exists." He helped her out of the vehicle. "We'll stay here until I can guarantee the city is safe." The hanok was beautiful. Traditional Korean architecture updated with modern security. Sliding doors opened onto a courtyard garden, heated floors, paper screens that glowed warm in the evening light. It felt like stepping into a different world, one where violence and syndicates didn't exist. Dr. Kim arrived within the hour, brought by helicopter to a clearing half a kilometer away. She examined Zuri with calm efficiency. "No injuries. Baby's heartbeat is strong. But you need rest. Stress isn't good for either of you." After she left, Zuri sat in the main room and started shaking. All the adrenaline, all the fear she'd been holding back, crashed over her in waves. Ryan sat beside her, close, but not touching. "This is my life now," she said numbly. "Car bombs and shootouts and running. This is what I'm bringing a child into. No, this is temporary." He pulled out his phone, showed her encrypted messages. "I've called for an emergency syndicate council meeting. Someone's been orchestrating these attacks. I'm going to find out who and end this permanently. And if you can't, then I remove you from the equation entirely. New country, new identity. You and the baby disappear so completely that no one can find you." She looked at him sharply. "Without you. If that's what keeps you safe? You'd really do that?" His jaw tightened. "I'd do anything to protect you, even if it means never seeing my child." The certainty in his voice broke something in her chest. She reached for his hand. Don't plan to disappear us yet. Find who's behind this. End it. Give us a chance." His fingers intertwined with hers, Normal might not be possible. Then give us a chance at something better than this. That night after she'd gone to bed, Rion sat alone in the courtyard. The mountain air was cold, clean, nothing like Seoul's perpetual haze. He rolled up his sleeves, stared at the scars on his forearms, white lines against his skin, reminders of the night someone had tried to kill him when he was 15. Knife wounds from an assassin his father's enemies had sent. He'd survived by being faster, meaner, more willing to do whatever it took. That night had taught him that sentiment was weakness, that caring about anything gave your enemies ammunition. But Zuri was changing that equation, making him want something beyond survival, making him believe that maybe his father had been right, that family wasn't just a liability, but something worth fighting for. He heard movement behind him. Zuri stood in the doorway, wrapped in a blanket, watching him. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "Too much adrenaline still." She moved into the courtyard, sat beside him. Her eyes caught the scars on his arms. "What happened?" 15 years old. Someone decided my father needed a message. I was the easiest target. He didn't pull away when her fingers traced the white lines. I killed him with his own knife. It was the first time I took a life. Not the last. I'm sorry. Don't be. It taught me what I needed to know. How to survive in a world that wants you dead. Is that what you want our child to learn? How to survive? No. He looked at her directly. I want our child to learn how to live. Really live. Not just exist between threats. That's why I'm doing this. Why I'm calling the council. I'm going to end this so our son or daughter never has to roll up their sleeves and count scars. She leaned against his shoulder, and he wrapped an arm around her, careful and gentle. They sat like that for a long time, watching mist roll through the valley, pretending the world beyond these mountains didn't exist. The syndicate council meeting was held 4 days later in a neutral restaurant in Seoul, private room, heavily secured. Ryan insisted Zuri stay at the Hanok with Gyo-ul and 8 guards, but she could watch via encrypted video feed. She watched. 7 people sat around the table, representing the major syndicates. Old men, mostly, faces carved from experience and violence. Ryan was the youngest by 15 years. They spoke in rapid Korean, but Gyo-ul translated the important parts. They're questioning why he called the meeting, accusing him of wasting their time with personal matters. On screen, Ryan stood. This isn't personal. Someone's been orchestrating attacks across multiple territories, using my situation as a catalyst. Dongdaemun hit my convoy. Itaewon crew attempted penthouse infiltration. Even smaller organizations are making moves they'd never risk normally. Someone's coordinating this. Someone's trying to start a war. And we should care about your pregnant girlfriend. Why? An older man, smoking despite no smoking signs. You made yourself vulnerable. That's your problem. It becomes everyone's problem when attacks spill into civilian areas. Ryan displayed images on a projector. Yesterday's car bomb, 3 civilians injured, 4 businesses damaged, police asking questions, politicians paying attention. That affects all of us. Murmurs around the table. Money and political influence mattered more than morality. Then a woman entered. Late 30s, beautiful in a way that suggested expensive maintenance, wearing a power suit and absolute confidence. She took a seat uninvited. That's Seo Reina, Gyo-ul said quietly. Rion's ex-fiancée. Runs her own syndicate now. Information brokering and blackmail. On screen, Reina smiled. Gentlemen, Ryan, how dramatic you've become. This doesn't concern you, Reina. But it does. I've been watching your romance with fascination. Lee Ryan, the Ice King, brought low by a foreign woman and an unplanned pregnancy. It's almost poetic. Get to your point. My point is, you've become a liability. Distracted. Weak. making decisions based on emotion rather than strategy. The old Ryan would have eliminated the girl the moment she became a target. She laughed. But you? You're playing house. It's embarrassing. Ryan's expression didn't change. If you have evidence of coordination, present it. I have something better, a proposal. Reina circled the table like she owned it. The attacks stop. Completely. Everyone here agrees to leave your woman and child untouched. In exchange, you step down. Retire. Leave souls underground to people who aren't compromised. The room went silent. Zuri's hands clenched. No. Ryan said simply. No? Reina's smile sharpened. You'd rather risk her life? How noble. I said no because you don't have the authority to make that offer. You're not coordinating these attacks out of concern for stability. You're orchestrating them. He pulled out a tablet, displayed it on the projector. Financial transfers from your accounts to Dongdaemun leadership. Encrypted messages between you and Itaewon crew. You've been paying people to target Zuri, creating chaos, then positioning yourself as the solution. Reina's expression flickered. You wanted me gone so you could consolidate power. You thought if you pushed hard enough, I'd either die defending her or abandon her. Either way, you win. He played an audio file. Reina's voice unmistakable, giving orders to eliminate Zuri. Specific instructions, promised payments, everything proving her guilt. The council members shifted. One pulled out a phone, another stood and walked out. The smoking man crushed his cigarette and looked at Reina with contempt. You violated neutrality, used council business for personal vendetta. Unacceptable. Reina's composure cracked. You're all fools. He's the liability. Enough. The man cut her off. Seo Reina, you're stripped of your territories. Accounts frozen. Operations forfeit. You have 24 hours to leave Seoul. If you're found after that, there will be consequences. Reina looked at Ryan, hatred burning. This isn't over. Yes, it is. His voice was final. Touch her. Touch my child and I won't stop with exile. I'll erase everything you've built. Every person who worked for you. Every dollar you've hidden. Every secret you've kept. That's not a threat. It's a promise. She left. The council concluded quickly. Agreements made to leave Ryan's family alone, territories redistributed, peace reestablished. When Ryan returned to the Hanok 6 hours later, Zuri was waiting. She'd watched everything. It's over, he said. The attacks stop. You're safe. She walked to him and kissed him. First time since the festival. First time she'd initiated anything. He froze in surprise, then his arms came around her, careful despite the intensity. When they broke apart, she kept her forehead pressed to his. Thank you. For choosing us. Always. He breathed. Always you. They stayed in the mountains another week, letting the tension drain away, learning how to exist without immediate threat. Then they returned to Seoul, to the penthouse, to a life that slowly transformed from survival to something resembling normal. 4 months later, Zuri married Lee Ryan in a private garden ceremony, attended by 12 people and more security than necessary. Her mother video-called from Johannesburg, crying happy tears, believing this was a beautiful cross-cultural romance. The baby came on a warm June morning. Min Ryan, 8 pounds, healthy and perfect. Ryan held his son with reverence usually reserved for miracles. I'm restructuring everything, he told her that night, son sleeping beside their bed. Transitioning operations to legitimate business, real estate, tech investments, entertainment. I want him to inherit something clean. That'll take years. Then I have years. I'm not going anywhere. He took her hand. You and Min Ryan are my life now. Everything else is logistics. She wanted to believe him. Mostly, she did. But 3,000 miles away, Seo Reina sat in a Tokyo apartment watching surveillance footage of the wedding, the hospital, the happy family Lee Ryan had built. She'd lost everything. Her empire, her reputation, her future. But revenge? Revenge was patient. She pulled up a file. Lee Min Ryan, born June 18th. Already worth millions. The perfect leverage. She began making calls, building alliances, planning her return. Because if Lee Ryan thought exile meant defeat, he'd forgotten who taught him strategy. The war wasn't over. It had just begun. So that's Zuri and Ryan's story, from a reckless festival night to a family worth fighting for. But is their son really safe? Is Reina's revenge going to tear everything apart? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you're hooked on this dangerous love and want to see what happens when Reina makes her move, smash that subscribe button. Hit the like if this story had you on the edge of your seat. And turn on notifications so you don't miss part 2. Because when Reina comes back, nobody's safe. See you in the next one.